Now we welcome Mr. Rahul Joshi onto the dais. Leader in PropTech investments and innovation. A chartered accountant with MBA in finance, he has over 18 years of experience spanning private equity, investment banking, and startup ecosystems. He previously held key roles at UBS, Times Group, and ICICI Bank. He founded filingmantra.com, an e-governance platform simplifying compliance for startups. Mr. Rahul specializes in finance, strategy, and venture growth. I now request our student coordinator, Shraddha, to present the book.
Now we welcome Mr. Vivek Verma onto the dais. Mr. Vivek is strategy advisor, board member, investor and mentor with 35 years of experience in business growth, leadership and social impact. As a certified professional coach, he specializes in neuro leadership and frontline leadership. He has played key roles in multiple ventures, driving innovation, incubation and market dominance. Passionate about social impact, he collaborates with the startup and the organization to create scalable, first of its kind solution for the business and the societal transformation. Now, I request student coordinator Niharika to present the bouquet. Now, we welcome Mr. Syed Yunus Kabi onto the dais. Mr. Kabi is a co-founder and a managing partner at Bharka FundServe with over 20 years of experience in banking, financial services and wealth management, a certified financial planner and cost accountant. He previously held leadership role at the Standard Chartered Banking and ILNFS Investment Smart. Passionate about the financial literacy and wealth creation, he specialized in financial and succession planning for the individual and businesses, driving strategic customer-centric solution. Now I request our student coordinator, Shraddha, to provide the bouquet. Without further ado, let's dive into right in. Let's hear from our experts. Sir, thank you.
Thank you for your warm welcome and introduction to all of us. Good morning all. Yeah. A warm welcome to you all to this panel discussion on the global investment race. Now with me, we have our eminent panelists, Mr. Yunus Kabir and Vivek Verma and Rahul Joshi. So in the next half an hour to 45 minutes, we'll discuss and we'll give you some insights on where exactly the money is going on and as an entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs and startups, where you can think about planning and investments. Now the global investment race, as we are talking about, everyone in the world are in the race. Uncle Sam says America first, or Modi ji says India first. Kangaroo says they want to be first. Then the dragon just recovering from its wound and trying to attract more investments across the world. Not only these big countries, even you look at countries like Vietnam, then your Morocco from Africa. So these are all the countries are trying to attract more investments for the economic development and to grow in the markets. That's one. And second is, there are multiple sectors which are attracting the investments. You're talking about information technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, fintech, then you have a manufacturing, then automobiles. So these are all different industries which actually attracting more investment, pharmaceutical, what they say, and the companies are also there. Globally, like companies starting from your Tesla, BMD or BYD, these are all also fighting for this race and they're looking for opportunities to put their money and make more money. So in coming few minutes, we'll have this discussion. Before we have this discussion, I would like to request our panelists to introduce themselves because we want to hear their story from their words. Instead of me narrating it, I would like to just want them to tell about, in a sense, in brief about their profiles and all, what exactly they are doing and how is it they are going to contribute to this panel. So I request Rahul Joshi to start with. Yeah, Rahul sir.
Hi, Hello all, my name is Rahul, and so I work with a investment fund known as Gruhas. How many people have you heard name of Nikhil Kamath? Okay, so Gruhas is basically a fund started by Mr. Nikhil Kamath and Avijit Pai, and we have been investing in early stage startups we started in 2021, and since then we have been looking at our focus area of investment has been a prop tech, sustainability, energy transition, and consumer. I believe if you would have been researching about Nikhil Kamath or listened to their podcast, some of the views of Nikhil has been basically get imbibed in how we invest in the companies. And so far we have done 50 plus investments, look at all the exciting companies, very, very promising entrepreneurs, and see if we can partner with them. That's our brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. Now I request Mr. Vivek Verma to introduce himself. So please.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon to all of you. Vivek is my name. I've spent about 3 decades in the corporate world before I jumped out of the corporate world and started working both in the impact space and in the startup space. Over the last 10, 12 years, I've invested in about 35 startups myself, been involved in a few funds. I was the founder of IIIT Seed Fund and then a few other funds over the period of the last decade. Currently, my focus is on mentoring startups. I've been mentoring about 270 odd startups over the last 10 years. One of the things I do currently is run a company called Global Carbon Warriors, where we only focus on climate tech startups, take them all the way from idea to Series A funding. One of its kind because we are a virtual incubator working on no cohort system. So as startups come, we work with them on an individual basis because our belief is to remove as much of the friction as possible for startups to kind of take their journey forward. We largely work with those startups who, by and large, quote unquote, have got rejected from the so-called incubators that run because they have a limitation of capacity. Most incubators don't take more than 20 to 30 companies in their incubation, whereas we have no such limitation because it's not a cohort system. So that's what I do today. I've been involved in the startup space for about 10, 12 years now, and looking forward to speaking and learning on the panel today. So.
Thank you, Vivek. Now I request Yunus Kabir to introduce, and all the participants who are here, Yunus Kabir is alumni of IPE. So, please, Yunus.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Ramkrishna, for having us here. It's always a pleasure to be at IP. So, as Sir just said, so I started my journey from the IP campus, the old campus, so when I passed out in 2002. So, yeah. So I have spent, almost 22 years in banking and financial services. 2015 is when I quit the industry and then started my own wealth management firm. It's called Barka Fund Serve. So we are in the business of mutual fund distribution. We work with individuals, families, businesses, helping them with their investments and doing the financial planning for them. So our mission is to spread financial literacy, financial awareness, and financial inclusion. So that's actually our vision, to achieve financial inclusion for all and financial freedom. So as we speak, I mean, at India, at the macro level, we are just 5% of the population who are investing into products like mutual funds for their financial planning. So it's a long way to go. Just to give a perspective, other industries like your Netflix and so they have a 25 to 50 crore of investor or customer base, but when we talk about mutual funds where it's a very convenient product to invest, so we are just talking about not more than 5 crores of investors. So there's a long way to go. That's our vision, to take the mutual fund story to every household. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kabir. And now, I guess audience has got a pulse of what the panelists are here. So we have a panelist from a different streams. One is talking about technology, Nitin Kamat's, and second is into energy, sustainability, and all, Vivek Vermaji, and Kabir with inputs from financial services, financial inclusion, and all. Three different individuals, and their perspectives of them may also be different. So we'll start with at a broader level. From there to we slowly narrow down to very local level. So I request my panelists to share their perspectives on, in the sense, which countries, according to them, are going to attract more capital and why. And in other terms, first we start with this, which countries, according to them, and going to attract more capital and why. We start with Rahul, please.
So, Ramakrishna ji, the way I look at it, and obviously there are tons of reports now. So, if you look at it last year, there was the public markets had essentially resulted in a lot of FDI outflows going, which means the money is going out of India. There were different reasons for why public markets had that kind of a situation. But if you fundamentally look at it at a very principal level, I believe there is a re-emergence of a manufacturing sector which is happening in India. The new generation of a manufacturing capability is going to get built. With some of the government policies for last 5 years, I think a very trickle-down effect is happening in India, and I see that the next generation of employment as well as the investments would happen from a manufacturing base. Fundamentally, somebody was quoting, I met somebody yesterday, and very interestingly somebody was quoting कि लोगों को एप्पल का मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, जब आईफोन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडिया में होने लग गया, तब लोगों को लगा कि अरे इंडिया से भी तो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हो सकता है. एंड प्रिंसिपली आई थिंक most of the global majors, because of the disruption in the way the trades have been, or the Trump has been basically trying to put trade barriers, I think the whole supply chains are going to get disrupted for a shorter term. But I believe that would result in a lot more FDI inflows to India. If you look at it from even a GDP perspective, India would be at a average at around 6.5% GDP versus China, which is at a 3% GDP, which we used to call it as a Hindu growth of rate. That's how I look at it.
Cool, thank you. We'll come back to your points afterwards. So now I request Vivekji to share his perspective where the money is going.
So I'll focus my response to your question from a startup world, because I think that's where all the excitement is, and I'm sure wealth, there are better views you'll hear. From a startup ecosystem, I think I would divide it into two. One is the traditional markets, which is obviously leading the wave is going to be US. They will continue to garner a large part of the funding that will continue to happen. UK is seeing a fair bit of investment, and I think the government also is putting a lot of focus. You know, as we speak, I'm kind of currently working with the UK government, which is focusing on setting aside, they have set aside £1 million fund only focused on UK startups who's wanting to come into India. They run a program where they bring 10 companies, each cohort twice a year, to really focus on India. So UK will continue to be a market. I think from what I would call new economies in that sense, India obviously I think is a great promising place where a lot of investments will happen, not just from India, but even globally. A lot of funds will come into the startup ecosystem. Canada will continue to get funds, though it's a bit iffy in terms of how things go there, because the socio-economic, political situation is a little dicey currently. We don't know how their own stability will work, and then obviously every once in a while we hear about US wanting a 52nd state. So we don't know which way that would go. So I think those would be my sense that, I think I am pretty gung-ho about India. It should attract a fair bit of the funding in the startup space. So I think a lot of inflows and a lot of domestic funds would go in. We hear about a new fund practically every alternate day, if not, more frequently, where someone is putting aside a few $1 million, a few 100 crores into a new fund which is going to be focused on some sector or sometimes sector agnostic. So I think the old markets, US, UK, Canada, the new markets, Israel, India, maybe a little bit into some of our Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, where some new startups are coming. I think it will take a little more time for the ecosystem really to develop. That's where I think the startup investments will go.
Thank you, Vivekji. Now I request Kabir to share his views on where the money is going.
The three key markets which come to my mind, and anybody's guess, so US, China, and India. So talking about US, I think US has been doing well for last 10, 12 years, has a 25 to 30% share in the GDP, and a disproportionate share in terms of the MSCI market capitalization, which is almost like 65-70%. So that's a big market, US. But of late, I mean, with the DeepSeek episode, I mean, there is a view that maybe the tech dominance of US is coming under threat, right? And again, the risk of the current tariff wars, so which the current government there is talking about. So it could be counterproductive. It could it's inflationary. So there are talks about a mild recession or a recession in US. So that's the risk I see in US. China seems to be on a recovery mode with the recent stimulus measures which China has taken, and they seem to be transitioning from a real estate led economy to probably a revival in the industrial space and also technology. So the belief that China does only manufacturing and US does only tech, so that I think has got debunked. And of course, the risk again in China is the excessive government control and lack of transparency. India, talking about India, I think India has already established itself as a structural growth story, the fastest growing economy, right? And we are not up to our full potential. I mean, so I think bare minimum 7 to 8%. I think should be the GDP growth, and given the political stability, the regulatory framework, and the economic outlook, I think India is one of the best destinations for seeking capital. And again, to add, it's not only the economic influence is not just concentrated to the major countries, as Sir was just saying. So we are also seeing a lot of regional powerhouses emerging. So like it's a UAE or a Singapore which have been taking a lot of structural measures, right? Structural reforms and measures to improve the ease of doing business. So those economies and markets are also attracting substantial capital.
Kabir, audience, I guess now you have a clear picture on where the money is going. And one good news is that all the panelists unanimously agree that India is the one country which is going to attract more of investments. So is that a good news for you all or not? Yeah. Now in the morning introduction, in the sense inaugural session, in the sense our speakers were talking about startup, in the sense entrepreneurship, ecosystem and all. One thing that I would like to contradict is this startup is nothing new. Because earlier from generations there is a businesses. Now we are calling it as a startup. Earlier it is called as a small business entrepreneurs or a businesses. Now how many of you are here, because as the panelists are mentioning that India is going to attract a more foreign direct investments, maybe in a bigger scale. But when you have a big companies comes to the country, automatically the small startups will also emerge. So how many of you actually have plans to start your businesses? Could you please raise your hands? That's quite good number. Good number. Normally we see only a one or two hands raised, but there is a good number. Now once we have a clarity that the funds are going to come to the country, the next thing is where that money is, in the sense which industries are going to attract this. And as an entrepreneur, because you are a management students and all, so you may be thinking about you can enter into any kind of a business. But now we take the perspective of a panelist on which industries are actually going to get more investments. So Rahulji, could you please share your perspectives on which industries are going to attract more funds?
So I would put it from where we look at on an investing side, right? I mean, so Gruhas has a thesis of how we want to invest in and what are the potentially scalable, larger investment themes across industries. Plus also where we feel that it makes the whole commercialization, unit economics, impact start making sense. And when we look at that, for us, essentially the largest investment we have done now in terms of our value, as well as even potential to do, is the energy transition. I think for us, we have, and I was telling Vivek while having a chat upstairs, was that we have invested from Gruhas from a complete whole value system of a mobility, where we invested in electric bus, we have invested in electric truck company, we invested in electric motor, we invested in electric charger, and we have invested in electric battery. So we have bet extensively long in terms of how a mobility is going to change the urban infrastructure and the climate. With potentially, there are obviously the way you look at it, so to some extent the impact would obviously be there, and hence our thought of that it makes sense, unit economics makes sense there, and we should invest there. But at a very larger theme, when we look at a thesis, we believe obviously the artificial intelligence is going to create significant impact on each and every industry. And from a Gruhas or any of the potential fund point of view, that would become a most significant, interesting space to bet on. We still get to understand how there are different use cases that's going to come across. AI is nothing but the technology. I mean, say people are not investing in AI as a company. There are obviously ChatGPTs of the world. We have built an infrastructure layer. But the way I look at it from a Gruhas point of view is that industry to industry, there will be use case. And for you who want to start thinking about any business or a startup, you have to think about a use case and see, is there a data enough to create build on top of that, build a AI layer, and that AI layer is able to significantly either reduce the time, increase the efficiency, or scale it up very faster. So energy transition, artificial intelligence, and third, which is where our genesis or name comes in, is a prop tech. So our view on that is a real estate. It's today around, from India point of view, it is around 10 to 11% of the GDP, and it's going to go up to 17% of GDP. Also on a number terms, we believe that it would result in almost like a $1 trillion of a market cap real estate is going to give. So prop tech, we feel it's completely ripe for a disruption, or real estate technologies which are used in real estate. And we would continue to invest in prop tech, and that's the reason even as of yesterday, there's a news from a Gruhas that we have launched in partnership with Brigade Earth Fund, which is focused on a prop tech. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. Now we listen to the perspectives of Vivek. Vivekji, please.
Yeah, sure. I'll just use some one words, and I want to ask each of you if you've heard or if you know what I'm talking about. How many of you have heard of perplexity? Perplexity? Yeah. How many of you have used ChatGPT? Yeah. How many of you have used Grok? How many of you have done that using Hindi as a language? Have any of you tried asking questions in Hindi or any regional language, including Telugu probably? Many of you. The reason I'm saying that is because in my view, that's the place where a large amount of work is going to be happening. Generative AI, machine learning, because that's where a lot of the future is going to be, a lot of the routine tasks, a lot of things that are repetitive in nature and which are dependent on knowledge that is resident in some system somewhere is going to come. So a lot of the investments are going to go into the AI space. And I'm seeing that with some work that I do with the IIIT Institute here in Hyderabad, where a lot of focus on AI, ML. So I think those startups will continue to, in my view, probably take a large chunk of the investment that will happen. Thereafter, given the work I do in Global Carbon Warriors, we feel, and that's the reason why we started this company about a year ago, that a lot of focus will happen on sustainability. The terminologies may change. You know, EHS is where it started almost a decade ago. Then it became ESG, circularity, circular economy, sustainability, clean tech, climate tech. There may be multiple terminologies that are there, but essentially, how are we going to be looking at a lot more clean tech, a lot more technology advancements, but still staying focused on Mother Earth and making the world a better place. So I think that's the second sector as far as I see where a lot of investments will continue to happen. I think the clean tech, which is part of this itself, but specifically focused on that, there are many, many funds today who are getting created just focused on plastic, on, you know, how do we make some of the waste that aggregates in our homes, in our cities, to be handled better, whether it's to turn them into biofuels or into some other byproducts that we can get. So that whole space will continue. Given what we've seen at the COVID time, you know, healthcare will continue to be a space where a lot more investments will continue to happen, and I think they need to happen because even today there are lots and lots of challenges that we still don't have scalable solutions which can be done at a price point which most people can get access to. You know, starting from the top of the chart for diseases like cancer, going down all the way to maternal health and to, you know, child health. So lots of focus on healthcare will continue to happen, I think. We've all been hearing a lot about cyber security, you know, with all of these digital arrests and, you know, crores of rupees. I was just talking to somebody yesterday, and this was a slightly elderly lady who in a matter of 4 days, you know, just with highly educated, both children living in the US, lost 3 crores in a matter of 4 days. You know, so there is a whole lot of work that needs to happen. So cybersecurity, and these are just small examples. You know, when you look at an organizational level, we keep hearing, you know, some large fintech company or a credit card company or somebody lost millions of data and which we don't know where it's gone and how it will get misused. So whole cyber security space. And last but not the least, I think from a Hyderabad perspective also, we are seeing a special focus on that, I think is on space tech. You know, a lot of work is happening on space tech. We have seen some brilliant companies come out of Hyderabad, you know, whether you look at it as Skyroot, whether you look at it as multiple companies, you know, who had imagined just 3 or 4 years ago that private satellites, you know, private rocket launchers, private rockets will start happening, which is outside of the defense system. So I think those, in my view, would be the top few sectors which will continue to attract a lot more investment. And fintech will continue. I'm kind of not putting it there because a lot of investment has happened already, and I think it will continue. A lot of the fintech investors, you know, and we hear that already, you know, with Nikhil, for example, the wealth they've made in the fintech space is now coming back as investment into other spaces, you know, besides that. So fintech will continue. That would be my view on sectors.
Thank you, Vivek. Now I wish to listen to the perspective of Kabir. Please.
So, Dr. Ramakrishna, I fully agree with the views of Rahul ji and Vivek ji because you know, they have the hands-on experience, I mean, and the case studies which they have spoken about speak, I mean, you know, where the money is going. So again, at a very broad macro level, I mean, yeah, sectors like be it technology, including AI, because they seem to revolutionize the industries and bring in more efficiency. So that's one sector. Then renewables, renewable energy. Talking about clean energy, which Vivekji was saying. I mean, wind, solar, and hydrogen. So this is one area. Then again, healthcare he touched upon, because again, even if you are looking at a country like India, so aging population, large population, and there's growing awareness about being health conscious. So all this helps the sector. So I think that'll attract major capital, healthcare. And yes, so these are and fintech again. Fintech, because it has disrupted the traditional or conventional banking. In a way, it has enabled or helped the process of digitalization and financial inclusion. So it's again work in progress, but I think fintech is doing a great job there.
Thank you, Kabir. Yeah, friends, Mr. Vivekji was asking you about the generative AI tools, and many of you raised your hands. Now, I'll ask you one more question here. What is the uniqueness of a Perplexity when comparing with other generative AIs? Research-based? Oh, no, everything is research-based. What is the uniqueness of Perplexity? Okay, so it gives a source of information and citation. It gives citations also, and extra prompts it will give you. Good. And right. Right, very good. I guess you are using. Now, one uniqueness of Perplexity is instead of going for 5 generative AIs, you go to one place, Perplexity. From there, whatever you give one prompt. If you want how the output from a GPT, it will give you. You want output from a Claude, it will give you. So instead of going for 5, 6 different generators, Perplexity. And another unique feature of a Perplexity, from which country this belongs, Perplexity, or who's a founder of a Perplexity? Nation only, yeah? Yeah, it's Indian. So Perplexity is owned by the Indians. Now, another aspect that I would like to touch here is when you're talking about the generative AIs and all, if any of my students are here sitting, in my classes, we'll experiment. In the sense, numerical problems are there. I ask the students to upload it to generative AI and get the solutions. Many times, we get wrong answers, right? Some mistakes, the generative AIs are giving a mistakes, and we'll try to train the generative AIs in our classrooms and all. Now, yesterday I was having a discussion in one forum where I'm talking about this generative AIs and delivering a lecture. I said that the accuracy of generative AIs when they're solving a problems are 50% or 60%. Suddenly, one of the audiences raised and they said, no, sir, it is accuracy. Warren Buffett has got a algo trade, 95% accuracy, and AIG Hospitals, Nageshwara Garu got accuracy of 98%, so on and so forth. That means that is the other side of the coin. Now, why I'm touching this point is, as Rahul has mentioned, a right thing that when you are working about a generative AIs, it is the data which actually matters. Where from you are getting your data, and how meticulously you did your model, and how is that you are going to get, based on that only you will get the attempt, or in the sense output. So the core of any generative AIs or any AIs, we are talking about all the large language models. Addition to that, we have a small language models, as Rahul was mentioning about company-specific models, like fintech is there, a bank is there, bank has got its own specific model. So these models are trained on a proprietary data. So when they are trained on a proprietary data, the accuracy levels will be high. Now, these are all. Now the point I just want to ask my panelists here is that all these guys are basically basic engineering degrees are very few, sir. Most of them are management, in the sense commerce and BBA students and all. But they are very keen about, as you know from their pulses, they are very keen about AI, ML and startups and also. Now, if at all, these younger generation wish to go for some startup ideas, or in the sense, if they have to explore or experiment, so which are the areas where they can give a try? Rahul, you can just throw some ideas where they can experiment, because the background is commerce, majority. Some are the engineers are also there, some from life sciences and all. So where exactly they can experiment with this or startup bug they can ignite? Please.
मुझे तो मेरे डैड ने बोला था चार्टर्ड क्या करना है, तो आई वेंट थ्रू अ प्रोसेस ऑफ एलिमिनेशन 20 years बैक कि साइंस फिजिक्स केमिस्ट्री मैथ आता नहीं है, मैं क्रिएटिव हूँ नहीं, तो शायद अब मेरे पास बाकी रह गया कॉमर्स में अब क्या कर सकता हूँ, बाजू वाले ने चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंसी करी है तो मैं भी कर लेता हूँ. तो आई डोंट थिंक दैट्स द करेक्ट आंसर फॉर एवरीबडी. आप यू शुड लुक एट इट दिस वे. The way I look at it now is कि you should be ready, make sure you are ready for how the future is going to evolve. What are the impact artificial intelligence is going to do? What are the spaces that there are vacant spaces where you can possibly reskill yourself and make relevant for you, from a job or entrepreneurship, even from a business point of view. I like to give a quote of, say, 15 or 20 years back, all the global banks have come into India, and I started my career with UBS Investment Bank as an M&A analyst based out of Hyderabad, and that has helped me to build up my M&A career. So I'm saying, and that has, because at that point of time, M&A was a very new thing. 20 years later, M&A sounds very sexy, nice, but if you have to look at it, you have to think what a 10-year future industries will look like and how you would want to reskill yourself. So if there are any specific industries to choose for, the answer for me is probably not in a very direct sense, yes or no. The idea is that what is your skill set matching with, and do you feel you are relevant to that industry or specific? Very interesting tidbit, but I would definitely want to check with everybody. How many of you are creators on Instagram? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nice, interesting. So, I mean, it's a very evolving landscape, and see, I have now, in this forum, we have 6 to 7 who are talking about their creators in social media platform. So, how do you reskill yourself and build up your future? You have to think on these lines. Thank you.
So I have some good news for you. In this whole threat of artificial intelligence, there is an AI which all of us have lived for much before this artificial intelligence came in. What do you think that AI would be? Yeah, the authentic intelligence. So in the world of artificial intelligence, my personal belief is authentic intelligence will still outweigh artificial intelligence, because like you heard right now, artificial intelligence is still dependent on whatever is the data that someone has created in the large models or the small models. It's dependent on the data. And who is creating the data? It's you and me. Who's feeding the training models that are coming in. So as long as we can stay a little ahead of that curve, I think we are good. So in that sense, one of the things I would very strongly suggest for most of you, like the question is that what next after you finish your program here, at the college here, is to stay, where is it that your passion lies? Where is it that you feel the most connected with? Quite often I advise students that I work with that we think vision statement or purpose is only something meant for an organization. I think it's equally relevant for us as individuals. What's your purpose statement? What's your vision statement? And that will come from just analyzing what you enjoy doing. Just go back and think about when is it that time doesn't matter to you at all. There are times when we do something and we just don't realize it's 2 hours which has got done, as against something where every 5 minutes we are checking our watch to say, okay, I think the time is done. Okay, now I need to leave. That gives you the first indication of where your passion, where your interest lies. So when you look at a startup space, one way is to look at it to say, where is the whole world headed? And it could be, let's say, a fintech or a health tech or an AI ML, like I just said a couple of minutes ago, and as you also heard from the other panelists. The other is to identify where does your passion lie? Where does your interest lie? And is there an intersection between the two, where the whole world is headed and where my passion or my purpose lies? Because that intersection is where the probability of your success will go up tremendously. Because you are passionate, you are connected, you are interested, and hence you will probably take those few extra steps that need to be taken in that area. So that would be my one kind of advice to you when you are looking at what area to look at. The other is to say that as against where is the world headed, look at where the potential for the solution you're trying to build is the greatest. So in light of that, I always say, don't worry about the valuation, focus on the value creation. Valuation should be a byproduct. That if I am creating an impact, if I am creating and solving a very large problem for a very large population, both those parameters are very important. The depth of the problem you're solving and the breadth of people for whom you're solving the problem. If you can get that depth and breadth right, then the probability again goes up tremendously. So I think those two would be where I would very strongly kind of recommend that you people should consider what area your startup should be. We saw a lot of hands go up when you were asked a question, how many of you are looking at entrepreneurship. So that would be my advice. Make a difference to the world, because that's what the world needs. Solutions to a lot of problems that exist today and a lot of new problems that will come as we evolve. Yeah.
So, by the way, today is an important day. Anybody, so what does 20th March stand for? World Happiness Day. So, yes. So, it's more important to be happy in what you're doing, right? Take joy in the small milestones. Of course, you have your long-term targets, but, take pride and, take joy in those small steps or small milestones which you achieve. So it's a blank canvas. So, and opportunities are many. Just make sure that your skill sets match with the opportunities. And there's no rocket science. You can learn and learn and learn, right? And so it's no longer about what you have achieved, right? So it's about what you have created for yourself and for others, for the society at large. So be a problem solver and bring solutions to the table. I think that is what will set you apart.
Thank you, Kabir. Yeah, now, see, we all had an understanding of what the ecosystem and challenges and all. Now, entrepreneurship is not that easy to go ahead or choose, because in a business schools, I'm there for the past 25 years, and everyone says that go for startups, do your own businesses and all. But when I look at, when I have to submit something for accreditations or something, now of the 540 students or of the 1,000 students, only one or two emerge as an entrepreneurs, remaining all are in the same race of going for an employment. So whether it's a public sector employment or private sector employment, because we see that as a safe bet. The reasons are that there are a lot of challenges when you come across, because starting from a macro level things, from Trump's decision making to the local political issues, hundreds of factors influence the journey of an entrepreneur. So now I'm not going to ask my panelists to suggest you and all, but what I'm going to do is reverse it. So if any of you have any questions, if your panelists permit me, so I'll ask our audience to pose the questions 2-3 on there, because they may be excited to know exactly from your side. So if your panelists, in the sense participants, have any queries or anything that springs into your mind, want to know from the eminent persons who was seasoned here, who saw the journey of startups and established it and settled and supported many entrepreneurs. So the floor is open for you. We'll take a few questions, maybe 4 or 5 questions. So the first come first, the fastest finger first. Giri, Anyone raise a hand, he will give the mic. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Sir,
So, any of you have a questions, quickly come and occupy the first row. So, immediately we'll give a mic here in itself. Instead of you traveling all the way from there to here. You can come onto the stage. Yeah. Please, those who have queries, please come and sit here on the left side row so that we'll call you onto the dais.
Sir, I wanted to say, sir, what will be the use of AI in agricultural sector? As you guys were saying about energy and everything, what about agricultural sector, sir? Sir, I am thinking of getting into agriculture and animal husbandry, so I wanted to ask that.
I can take a first shot at it. I sit on the board of a large agriculture company in Hyderabad called Center for Sustainable Agriculture. I think there is a very large use case for agriculture and for animal husbandry or livestock, as you say. Couple of areas where it will be extremely useful is one of the things a lot of our farmers struggle with is about crops, what crops, which seasons, how many times can you use the soil, so how many rotation of the crops can you do, which crops can you grow together. A lot of this knowledge, a lot of this data can be available and access to that can be given to a lot more people if we can build good quality engines where the access is given to farmers by making it easy. The problem today is the data exists, the information and knowledge exists, but it is not in a manner in which every farmer can utilize it. So I think a lot of these engines will help translate this information into smaller bits and pieces, into regional languages, into voice, for example, so that you don't even need to read it. You know, I can just listen to that and get that. So that's one place where I think a lot of value will happen. The second that a lot of our people struggle with is which are the right markets where I would get the best yield for my products. I think that, again, a lot of the marketplaces will get built, which means, again, a lot of information which is available. Now, how do we take it back to a lot of our farmers, a lot of our smaller entrepreneurs who are doing this work? Third is the space where a lot of these FPOs, all of us know, and I'm sure you've done your research, that agriculture in India is largely today run through the FPOs. You know, there are roughly about 20,000 FPOs in the country today. Now, they are also struggling because the FPOs are essentially 50 farmers coming together, creating a body to say, how do we help others? But they are also struggling with data, they're also struggling with information, they're also struggling with what are the best practices, what are the best models. So I think a lot of this information will be very, very useful that we can create models which can break it down into smaller pieces, easier to digest for people to take that forward. So I think that's where I see, and on the animal husbandry or livestock side, again, diseases and what can be done, because one outbreak, and we hear it all the time, poultry industry is wiped out because some, virus came, or dairy industry is affected because, some disease came. So how do we do early warnings for these, which can help our farmers to be able to manage that better? I think those are areas where there is a huge scope for technology and particularly artificial intelligence that can come in. And I'm sure if there's something else one of the other panelists wants to add, then add.
Yeah. Right.
I'd like to say that I'm very delighted that we
Somebody
have
is
somebody
looking at
coming up, and talking about agriculture. So that's nice to hear. All the best.
What is
There's a
your
Bill
name?
Gates.
From which
Yesterday
program?
there is a Bill Gates.
BFSB. I am Som Sinha from BFSB.
Okay.
I don't know if everybody has seen a Bill Gates reel yesterday on Insta. Bill Gates has been flying a drone. And I don't know if anybody has noticed, that drone manufacturer is based out of Hyderabad, and the name of the company is Marut Drones. They are basically they're using a drone and artificial intelligence to map, to do crop intelligence, to do fertilizer spraying, pesticide spraying. So, and they've been funded by low capital. So agriculture, it's about how do you figure out a problem and able to use that intelligence or that use case to make it commercialized. So we have a company, very successful company now based out of Hyderabad in agriculture space, using a deep tech technology, which is a drone and artificial intelligence, which is now being featured by Bill Gates.
And the Prime Minister, the drone Didi, which is what Bill Gates is really talking about, they're also doing large afforestation solution. So the same drones from Marut and Prem are also used to go and on those areas which are otherwise inaccessible and drop seed bombs. So essentially they create such a large kind of collection of various seeds, and these drones go and drop it over large hills where deforestation has happened. So a lot more forestation is happening, which will help farmers because the soil erosion and all of that happens is going to get. So yeah, lots of use cases like that.
We all know Bill Gates as a tech guy, but in US he is the largest farmer also. In the entire US, largest farmer is the Bill Gates. Yeah. Next. First, you introduce yourself, then ask a question.
PGDM General Management, first year. And my question to the panel is that everyone of you are saying about all these AI inclusions and those all. So how this will be my perspective of the tomorrow's market is inclusion of all these into the human health, mental illness, because I feel that will be one of the major markets, one of the new streams markets where people need to be concentrated on. What is your call on the mental health of a human being?
From a Gruha's point of view, as of now, we identify that as a problem. Let me break it down into two. Is a healthcare, and that too specifically a mental health, is a problem to be solved for 100%. I don't think there is a question in that regard, right? And now the second part of it does from a Gruha's, are we looking at that as an investment opportunity in a short term? Probably not. What we had been looking at an investment opportunity as a part of transitioning is elderly care, which becomes a bigger part, and mental health is a subset of that. So we have invested in two companies from Gruha's, is known as Imoha, which is elderly care. They are digital first platform which helps elders supporting their day-to-day lives. And second company we have invested is known as Primus Life, which is building up a communities for elders. So I think the way we are thinking of solving a problem is not looking at any pharma or doctor-led interference or management, prescription management models, but it's we are thinking of more of a community-led models to see, can we invest in a companies which are able to build communities around it.
So my perspective is that that's a huge space. And if you see today from a global perspective, the number of students who are choosing psychology, and even within psychology, clinical psychology, has gone up significantly. And I think it is still not going to be sufficient to fulfill the demands that are going to come. One, because of technology and a rapid adoption of technology. Also because of the lifestyles we are living. A lot more sedentary lifestyles, a lot more dependence on screens, a lot more dependence on, moving away from physical activity. So a lot of that is going to happen. And I think that's a space that's going to require non-traditional solutions. And from my experience, a lot of startups are looking at that space to find solutions using technology, using methodologies to help people manage the stress. And on top of that, we hear the work-life balance, whether it is the 90 hours or the 110 hours or whatever the number maybe. So all of that is going to lead to that. So I agree with you that that is a massive challenge that is going to be facing us, and we will need to get a lot more fantastic solutions that will need to come. So if some of you are thinking about finding some solutions in that space, I think the probability of success will be very high, because the world is going to need a lot more mental health, stress management, calmness, wellness, whatever be the dimension you choose to take within that space, startups.
So do you think the social actors and the technology drivers are also responsible to take care of this?
I mean, they are responsible, but that's always the balance, right? When industrial revolution happened, the same thing happened, that there were people who were naysayers. You know, when the digital evolution is happening, that's what they are saying. So that will always remain. Now, should they also solve that problem? Yeah, some of them are, you know, and some of them, you know, will probably in future solve, but somebody else can solve the problem.
Thank
and
you.
that's where our opportunity lies.
So I can relate to what you have said, so because my wife is a mental health expert. She's a clinical psychologist. So what she hears, and you know, all the counseling and the therapies which she does, so end of the day, I mean, you know, I'm experimented on. So you know, I get to learn a lot about this. But you know, as you rightly said, sir, it's the problem is there, and it's affecting across ages, across classes, and this was always considered to be a taboo. I mean, you know, closed room discussion. I mean, mental health. Matlab, people used to think bad about this. So there's nothing bad about it. Anybody, and you know, it could be anybody who's in need of counseling, anybody who is going through stress or, you know, pressure, need some kind of counseling. Of course, there are varied degrees of this, but I think it's, again, I'm glad that after agriculture, I mean, you know, somebody is talking about mental health. So there is great opportunity. So how, you know, of course, I'm sure there can be a method of doing that better. Using technology, I mean, you know, to bring it, to take it to the larger audience and make it more accessible is what I would say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I asked her which subject she want. Then she said, commerce, Baba, I don't want to go for engineering sciences, no commerce. Along with the commerce, I suggest her to go for a psychology. Now, many of us wonder that why is that for a CEC student, why you want to go for a psychology? I said, psychology is not for today, but psychology is for future. Maybe down the line, 5 years, 10 years, it is everything is doing a psychology. And very important aspect is when you are talking about this AMLs, it is a psychology which actually is working on in these areas. So I also suggest those who are interested in going for consumer behavior, market research, financial behavior or behavioral finances and all, you also give a try about psychology, not into a clinical psychology, but you can also try a applied psychology also. Yeah.
So my name is Vamsi. I'm a working professional here. So firstly, I would like to thank you, sir, for sharing the valuable insights for budding, budding entrepreneurs. Yeah. So my first question is from the venture capitalist side. So what are the key factors you see to invest in a startup company? That is my first question. And the second question, what are the fastest growing startups in India, and what are the success ratio, like in long run, which kind of startup companies have a success ratio, like more success ratio? Is that related to AML or IoT or agri-tech or health tech? So this is my second question. And first is that, and second is this.
So what are the factors while investing? So if you do everybody is a ChatGPT user, right here, and if you do a search or type, what are the factors which any VC will look at for investing, and they will give you a very nice checklist, and you would know the answer. So having said that, from a Gruha's, and that specifically comes specifically come from a Gruha's point of view, I think first is about okay, let me divide that into 3 stages. Investing in a idea stage, investing at a stage where company has started business and company has started scaling. At an idea stage, it's all about a person and the idea. And is that a potentially a larger market that, and is this a painkiller or a vitamin? So I would look at, when I have to think about it at earlier stage, do I like that guy? Is he is he's able to execute what he think of? Is it a painkiller or vitamin? Is the size of the market big enough to create a disruption? Is he able to, sorry if I'm not trying to create a gender, so it's not about he versus she, but are they able to identify the space and create a niche around it through which they can grow significantly higher? So if you look at idea stage companies, I would look at them. If the companies have reached some kind of a business, which is a product, which they call it now a product market fit, then it's all about attraction. And are they able to execute what they have said? What was their initial thesis? How agile they were in terms of pivoting themselves to make it relevant into market? Are their margins better? Is there a feedback? Customers are giving a good feedback to the product. So I don't know if it's echoing much, but I'm saying based on the stage of the company, the parameters will change. That's how I look at it. Hope I answer.
From my perspective, with having made 35 investments and been part of a few funds, the number one thing I look at, or, my perspective is the founder. Okay? So how flexible is the founder? How much research and depth has the founder done, which comes from what I said earlier, the purpose, the passion. And the last piece is that how open is the founder from feedback perspective? How coachable is the founder? Because whether it is from a mentor or a coach, more importantly, what it is from the market, there is going to be tremendous feedback coming back. How open is the founder to be able to listen to that feedback and willing to pivot, or at times willing to shut down? Because at some point, one has to also realize that there's enough feedback telling this idea is end of its curve now. It's not going to work. And sometimes we as founders get so passionately infatuated with our idea that we refuse to give up. And that's not healthy for the entrepreneur. So I think that's the number one. The second is the size of the problem, the depth of the problem, and the understanding of the solution and the uniqueness of the solution. So I think those two, if I was to look at, would be that. To your second point, which are the places where the greatest investment is going to happen? I think we answered that a little bit earlier, that it is going to be in the technology space, it is going to be in the sustainability space, but more importantly, it's going to be in a space where scalable, marketable, and kind of affordable solutions are going to get built.
I think Dr. Ramakrishna is following the order from unlisted to listed, so he's making sure the journey is right. No, sir, I think you have covered the aspects because of the use case studies and the hands-on experience. So I think yes. So that's the advice. You should be taking.
This is the last questions we'll take. Yeah, Rishi, please.
Hi, I am Rishi. Good afternoon, panel. Sir, my question is, in the recent years, we have seen a significant shift from traditional investing methods to digital investing methods. And recently, I have seen few apps which involve AI in pitching investment suggestions. So how do you think the future will be for mutual fund distributors, financial planners, and service providers?
So I guess that's for me.
A question for you, Kabir.
No, I think it's a great step in the right direction. So because as I said in the beginning, we are all talking about financial inclusion. Going to the last mile. Yeah, individual advisors. So we are also adapting ourselves. Mutual fund distributors. So you have to be innovative, take the technology along. So it's no longer just the physical advisor and investor meeting, right? So there are no boundaries now. So thanks to the technology. But yes, a hybrid model would always be preferable. So make use of the technology, the apps and whatever is at your disposal. But, an investor, so would always like to, have a human touch, right? So that's where I think our roles are still relevant, yeah. And of course, the scale is huge, right? So there's nothing stopping. So you have to use technology to top. We are talking about increasing the penetration from less than 5% to 50% of the population. So it's not humanly possible for me and you only to do the task. So technology has to be playing a vital role in this.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, last question, sir.
Thank you for that.
A quick question and quick answers you'll
Yes,
get.
sir, yes, sir. So I'm Chandana and I'm a marketing student here in first year. So my question is pretty small and simple. As we see, like in today's market, everybody is moving towards sustainability, right? And even many corporates are doing their CSRs in sustainability. So there are still certain sectors, like for example, heavy manufacturing, that will find it difficult. Yeah. So question is there going to be something like a sustainability revolution or something like that, and what does that going to be look like in future?
Yep. Yeah, Rahul. Yeah. Yeah.
Bet at that. So I'll tell you, we have, and that's why see, when you look at a heavy manufacturing sectors, and probably because I have a ringside view of that, looking at opportunities there, I would say that we are now coming across very interesting companies. We have evaluated a electric tractor manufacturing company. We have in the last construction equipment show, Sani has showcased a EV-based wheel loader. Okay, so and the way the whole logistic around building material, I mean lifting the whole construction, the commodity, say a steel or coal or mining. So if you have to break that down, a typical coal mine would have construction equipment companies. There are trucks which will pick up the coal, deliver it to some place, which essentially a power plant and all of that. The whole ecosystem is trying to solve for each use cases. So there's somebody who's trying to solve for construction equipment in itself. The forklift or machines, can that be electric to start with? Somebody is solving for the supply chain logistic. Can that become electric or hydrogen? Somebody is trying to solve for. Somebody is trying to solve for is there a technology for tracking and using artificial intelligence to reduce the whole time frame in terms of delivery, wastage, leakage? So essentially that reduces the essential use of a product, I mean say wastage of a product, and hence adding to the climate benefit. So at a broader slate, if you look at it, people are trying to solve for a different use case, at least, and trying to figure out if there is a potential to scale around it.
So I think the straight answer to your question is there going to be a sustainability, whatever term you use? 100%. We don't have a choice. The earth doesn't have a choice. And as people living on earth, we don't have a choice. So sustainability is going to get very, very deep into every sector. Without exception, every sector, from clothing that we wear, to the vehicles we use, to the food we eat, to the houses we live in, to the entertainment we use, every space is going to get sustainability angle coming in. And for startups, if any of you are looking at it, today, this is going to become, in my prediction, it's already there today, but it's going to become very soon the #1 criteria for investments to also happen. The investors are also going to be asking, they're already asking today, but it's going to become even more prominent, that tell us your sustainability story. What is it that you are doing to manage sustainability? Yes, you're doing profitability, yes, you're doing scale, but also tell us about your sustainability. So absolutely, that wave is already begun, and it is going to become even more stronger and bigger and larger, and whatever terms we want to use.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I mean, yes. So any business or product which is not eco-friendly, or if their practices are not environment-friendly, I think stakeholders are boycotting the brand, sir, if I'm correct, if it's not a long shot. So like clients or shareholders, so their brands are being boycotted if you are not environmental and social socially compliant. So I think the SDG goals which are being talked about, I mean, unanimously all the countries have agreed that the 17 SDG goals, have to be met. Of course, the timing is, we don't know when that will happen, but they have agreed. Just to give a perspective, we are talking about a climate change. So I think the global objective is by the end of the century, the temperature rise should be not more than 1 degree centigrade. Now, why 1 degree centigrade and not beyond that? Because at maybe after that or 1.5 degree centigrade, the ice glaciers will start melting at your North Pole and South Pole. And the sea levels will rise by almost like, 10 meters or 30 feet. So what happens then? Countries like Singapore, which has 1/3 of its landmass just above, less than 5 meters above sea level. Just imagine what is going, and that's not a worst case scenario. So it's very important. I think I'm again very glad that even this topic has come up. So it's a very relevant goal, I think, for all of us.
Just to probably add a little bit of pessimisms there, the goal was 1.5 degrees. We've already crossed 1 degree. So now the recent prediction is that if we don't contain what we are doing, it is likely to be 2 degrees. And, forget about Singapore, Maldives, which is our neighbor, from 1,100 islands is already down to 800 islands. So 300 islands have already gone. And smaller places like that will just vanish with the glaciers melting. So it is a problem which is here, which was there yesterday, but it is here today. And if we don't solve it, we are in for deep trouble. Good that you are focusing on that, and I hope more and more people focus on that to solve the problem.
Thank you.
On behalf of the participants here and from the IPE fraternity, my sincere thanks to Rahul Joshi Garu and Vivek Verma and Kabir for sharing their valuable insights and inputs to you all. Hope this made some sense to you and given some thought for your entrepreneurial journey. I wish you all the very best for the participants. Please give a big round of applause to all the panelists here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I now request our student coordinator Shraddha to present our guests with the moment.